All right, everybody, it's Thursday night and it's time for another episode of Dr. Jeff and Friends. And Dr. Jeff and Friends is the forum where I believe healthcare informs patients, and it's not just about prescriptions. It's not just about big pharma. And that's why I like to bring the conversation with physicians and scientists and researchers and industrial leaders who are changing the way that we think about health and longevity and performance. And together we can explore the science and challenge conventional thinking. And tonight I have somebody that I have literally looked up to. This is an interesting story. I have looked up to this lady since the first couple days that I was involved in LifeVantage. And we really didn't know who each other was. And over the first year that I was involved, we learned about each other. And as strange things happened, we were sitting in a bar on a cruise ship. And I looked over and I said to my wife, I think that's Dr. Nancy. And at the same time, she was talking to, I think, Brett Brimhall's sister, Sharinda, saying, I think that's Dr. Jeff. And then we finally just got up and walked over and started talking to each other. And that's how we formally met. But we knew of each other for like a year and we would talk about each other, but we never actually met. And so I am honored tonight to have as my guest on Dr. Jeff and Friends, somebody that I look up to, somebody that has been involved in LifeVantage for a long time, my good friend, Dr. Nancy Bryan.
Oh, it's such an honor to be here. I love it. And I'm loving seeing some of the names and people that I've known for a while. They've been here too. And
Yeah,
you know
no, there's
what?
a lot of a
It,
lot of
it,
people popping up on here that we all know and have been around. If you don't know Dr. Nancy, and I think you do, Dr. Nancy is a certified diabetes educator, certified geriatric pharmacist, certified veterinary pharmacist. She has her master's in molecular biochemistry, a PhD in pharmacology. She was one of the formulators for LifeVantage. She has formulated, and we're going to talk about some of the formulations that she's done, but even more about the person. She's a two-time breast cancer survivor, a melanoma cancer survivor, a melanoma warrior. She has three grown children, four grandchildren that we're just talking about. She's going to go to Louisville for the summer and spend time with her grandkids, loving on them. The only thing I don't like about Dr. Nancy is she's a Michigan State Spartan fan. And if you know, I played football at Penn State, so I'm not a fan of Michigan State. Even a bigger non-fan and we probably have this in common. I hate Big Blue, so do not like the University of Michigan. So we probably have that in common. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and start some questions, and then she can chime in more about her history. So let's start at the beginning. How did you how did you become involved in formulation, and how did that lead you to LifeVantage?
it's so crazy. So a long time ago in a place far, far away, grew up in Michigan and crazy family. And I had a grandma that was amazing. And a long time ago, she started teaching me. Oops, I hope somebody can mute. She was instrumental in explaining to me way back then that our family had some issues with our blood. And I, not knowing this from the time my mom had me, apparently when I was born, I was very, very ill. And this tells you the beginning of why it's so important of what we're going to talk about. The doctors told my parents that I wasn't going to make it. I weighed 4 pounds. It was not good. And I was not absorbing any of the nutrients. I couldn't drink my mom's milk. And so my grandma came to them and told them that's because she needs a goat. Who knew? I needed a goat. So they bought a goat. And the goat's milk is what turned everything around for me. So from that point on, from the time I was born, my family was aware of different things going on with the gut. And I became very infatuated with that. When I was doing molecular biochemistry, that was the whole idea. I wanted to get down to the root of what was going on, right? And so when I finished, I of course wanted to go to medical school. But back then they didn't like girls in medical school. And they literally told me that I should go become a pharmacologist because that's who all the doctors will call. So that's what happened. I became a doctor of pharmacology, a doctor of pharmacy. When I went to pharmacy school, I already had a master's. Most other people only had a couple of years education. So they were all in on all the drugs. And I was taking in the information on the side so that I knew what I was going to be talking about later, which was a completely different perspective. And so that's where I came from. My first job, I worked for Eli Lilly and Company. I was their first female sales rep a long time ago. That was a world of entertainment. And that's when I knew I needed to do something different and started doing compounding. And I got tired of people right away, so I took care of animals. That's how I became a certified veterinary pharmacist. And the animals mattered. My family owned a huge zoo up in Michigan. Animals were my life. And to be honest, I didn't see myself ever doing anything like this. But guess what? Fast forward, when your body starts breaking down and those genes my grandma was telling me about, unfortunately, took several of my relatives very early. My sister died of leukemia at 21, uncles, cousins. It's a really weird gene. If you want just some fun, geeky stuff, go look up Liframini, Liframmini. It's a weird thing with genes. So I became very obsessed with genes. And by the grace of God, there was a friend of mine who was a surfer, a surfer, not a scientist. And he brought this company's information to me because we both had melanomas. And as he said, I had gone through breast cancer twice. This last melanoma I had, they removed 4 inches by 2 inches by 2 inches deep from my abdomen. And the doctor said, "You're done." And so when he brought it to me, I, of course, rolled my eyes. But I'll tell you what sets what we're going to talk about apart is the fact that there was real science. When he showed me a study that was done in a peer-reviewed medical journal, I started asking questions. And be careful when you ask questions, because when that happened, then the company said, "You need to come up here." And the next thing you know, I'm on the science board. So that, you know what, fast forward, we can't say we treat, mitigate, prevent, or cure, but guess what? I'm living a great life right now. So that's the beginning. And I know it's kind of long, but it's an important part of the story. Uh-oh, did we lose him?
We did lose him, but he'll be back on. His power went out.
Oh, no. Well, you know what? Here's the thing that I've learned to do. I've learned to be prepared for all kinds of things, because all kinds of things happen, right? I mean, God bless the people in Venezuela right now. They just had not one, but 2 earthquakes, okay? You never know what's going to happen. So I know one of the things he wanted me to talk about was what processes brought me to looking at LifeVantage in particular, because there's so many different companies out there. And like I said, when my friend told me that there was this product he wanted me to look at, the questions that I asked, hi, Jeff, we kept going.
Good. I completely lost power. There was a flash and then nothing. So
no worries.
I'm glad that everybody stayed.
We're on a roll, and I'm telling them now about, what brought me to taking a look at our actual ingredients and company. And the thing that really set apart what I saw, because I saw the ingredients, and there's so many, how many people go to the store and see the ingredients we have in our NRF2 on the shelf? They're there. And I had, I was like everyone else. Well, I'm already on turmeric. I've been taking milk thistle since forever. Why do I need this? But what separated it out were 2 things. The first thing was how they get the raw ingredients. That separates us from so many other people. They send out scientists, and they actually test raw ingredients before we purchase them. There's lots of raw ingredients out there. Obviously, we're not growing ashwagandha here in America. So when we have to go get things where we're going to get them, there's all kinds of different supplies of it. Well, we take the trouble to go out there and to check for the active components of what those raw ingredients are. That's so important, because then
if you guys missed my call a couple weeks ago with Lisa Barnes and Christina Beers. They went deep into that. And this is one of the things I think is amazing about our company. And I know everybody on this call are people that are involved with LifeVantage. But one of the things I think is amazing is we go out, we source the raw ingredients, we test the raw ingredients, and then we formulate and we test it again. And then not only do we stop there, then we test it with our other products to look for the synergy. And that's where it's amazing. That's where the science really comes full circle. And no company does that. Really, truly, no company. We're doing, and I'm completely anti-big pharma, but we're doing big pharma type research on supplements, which is absolutely just unheard of.
And because of us doing it that way, what really impressed me the most is that's why the FDA allows us to make certain claims. The FDA doesn't let nutrient companies make any claims because they cannot prove that they can do the same thing over and over and get the same results. And that, to Jeff's point, when we take the time, when we take the energy to get that done, we make sure. And the testing it after it's made is as important. And then the synergy. And that's what, for me, Miss Molecular Biochemist Nerd, when I saw what they were doing, because when I was asked to look, they had NRF1 and NRF2. And I was just blown away with the fact of what they had done to put those two things together. And if you understand the cell, there's the yin and the yang in the cell. There's, the trash builds up, you got to get rid of it. And then you've got the mitochondria that make the cell have its function. And so those two work together to strengthen those two things. And so for me, that was really the key to why I decided to get involved. And then the secondary part is the proof is in the pudding, right? Because then I got started on the products right away, which, I made sure I did. My results were so significant when I went back to the doctor. Remember, I told you my blood work was bad, and he said, it's over. 6 weeks later, I go back into the doctor. And you know what? They don't take 1 tube, 8 tubes of blood. Now, this is a person whose blood's anemic and you don't have enough and all that. I'm like, 8 tubes. They call me back, and the doctor says, you have to come back. The lab messed up. I'm like, what? I am not doing 8 more tubes of blood again. And they're like, no, you have to. I'm like, oh my gosh. I go back in, I get the blood work done again. Then I had my appointment. The doctor literally came and sat on the exam table with me. That was a little uncomfortable. I'm not going to lie. But he was like, what happened? I had never had normal blood work. I told you, my family has this horrible gene. I had never had normal blood work my whole entire life, ever. So, you know what? That from then on, then I'm like, okay, I was feeling better. And then, you know what? I learned about Axio and how they took those same things that were in the NRF2 and made a way to put it into a drink. And I had a dear friend who her daughter had severe autism. I mean, just a lot of handful, right? And she was really struggling, and she called me one day, and I'm just starting to feel better, and I'm like, I don't even know what I'm doing. I just grabbed my stuff, ran to her house, and I said, I don't know if it'll help, but Child Protective Services were coming. They were going to take her, right? That's how much she was acting out and struggling. And in 3 days, three days on Axio and NRF2, she calmed down so much. And you know what happened from then? She started just doing so well. Her dad used to say every day he would leave for work and he would hug her and her mom goodbye. And she would just stand there like a rock. And maybe a couple of weeks into it, when he was leaving, he was kind of in a hurry. And as he was walking out the door, she yelled, Dad, and she put her arms out.
Yeah.
They called and told me, and I was crying for days. Then I knew it was a moral obligation.
Oh, yeah. If you know anything about Axio, we do these every 2 weeks. So I alternate between an overview on Thursdays, and then a week later we do Dr. Jeff and Friends. So in 2 weeks, we have the king of Axio. So my guest in 2 weeks is Dr. Brett Brimhall. And I think that will be an amazing, amazing. Every time Brett and I get together and talk, it ends up being an amazing call. So I'm excited that he will be my guest in 2 weeks. So I'm going to turn back to Nancy. So Nancy, I don't know, as I was gone for that 5 minutes with no electricity, I'm not sure how much you got into, but I'm not sure if everyone knows, but you had a key role in the vitamin D plus, in the daily wellness, and then in the AM PM vitamins, as well as the prebiotic.
I did.
I want to start off. I think AM PM is probably the most misunderstood product in LifeVantage, and B, probably the product that everyone should be on and they don't realize it. So it's kind of not everybody knows why they should be on it, and I don't think everybody understands why it's so important. So I want you to talk about your ideas behind that, why the circadian rhythm is so important and nobody gets it. I think you and I get it, and 90% of the doctors across the country don't understand. And there's 3 ingredients, especially in the PM, that I want to talk about because I think it's probably one of the biggest problems in our country that people don't realize. So I'm going to let you start, and then I'm going to kick in somewhere.
Well, it all started with me working here in Scottsdale with a company because they were looking for something to help with bones, because that's always a big issue as we age, right? And bones are the bank. That's where everything is. If we don't have good bone health, all the other things start going to pieces. So they asked me to come in, and I had put together some things early, and they were like, give us your ideas of what's going on here. Why can't we just take calcium, and why can't we just take, and so I was like, okay, no. So I developed a product,
and that calcium and D aren't even enough. And I know this is where you're going. So people that are on this call, especially there's a lot of ladies on this call, if you have osteopenia, osteoporosis, you're worried about it, your family has had it, vitamin D and calcium is not enough. And Nancy, I know Dr. Nancy's going to talk about this.
So the bones, as I said, they're the bank. So for us to keep optimum health, and I told you about my family with leukemias and all the issues, it all started in the bones where blood's being formed and it didn't go well. So the bottom line is that I knew the things that needed to be there. And let's face it, let's go back to whatever I'm formulating. God didn't intend us to take pills. God intended us to get everything we need from the earth, from the ground, and from animals, right? We put together everything so that those are the components for our bodies. But we don't have those options today because of lots of reasons I won't get into. But the bottom line is everybody starts diminishing their D3. They're not getting enough of. One of the biggest things, and I want to talk about how the importance of this to the AM and PM. So that bone product I put together was basically the AM and the PM and the D3 that we have today. It was those all put together because I didn't have as much information then as I do now. Because this was a while ago. This was in the 90s. But I knew we needed those things. Fast forward, the government, again, I know I bring this up, but it was the first time they allowed a company to say that that product was bone growth. We actually proved from that original product that we could grow bone. Unheard of, right? All the medications out there, the prescriptions, all the calcium, all the stuff is to prevent bone loss, right? I was building it, and they were losing their minds trying to figure out how to get rid of me, let me tell you. Anyway, fast forward, I come to this company, and they're like, please, will you help us with this? So I said, well, I have advanced information now. Now we know components that are in there. Some of them need to be taken, as we talked about circadian rhythms. Some we need in the morning to help our brains wake up, to help our muscles move, to help our brain work, to make all the things work in the day. And then there's other things we need to take at nighttime to calm things down, to help heal our mitochondria, to help everything work the way it's supposed to, the yin and the yang and the balance, right? And then the D3, the components of it aren't just vitamin D. It was several forms of calcium, several forms of other things that all went together. And so that ended up being our AM PM D3. And I was so excited because when I brought that to the attention of the company and they wanted it, I'm not going to lie, there were a few people that stepped back a minute. You asked me some challenges, that was one of them. But I can tell you that once they saw what I was talking about and the science behind it, that changed everything. And so many people do not understand with our NRF1 and NRF2, which are so essential for cell health to optimize our body's health, we have to have those small nutrients that are in the AM, PM, and D3, and it optimizes how it all works.
So the three ingredients in the PM reset that I want to talk about. So I'm going to talk about what I think is probably one of the biggest problems in America today. And I think that it stems from oxidative stress. It stems from you, and if you've heard me talk before, you know that our diets changed somewhere between the mid 70s and mid 80s when big tobacco took over big food, and ultra high processed food started. But it started around then, and the oxidative stress started attacking our bodies, and the one organ that it attacked, and I think it really caused part of our obesity issues, is the thyroid. And so when I started with LifeVantage and I looked at the AM/PM, I was surprised, and I think it's because of Dr. Nancy, and I want to give her kudos, that if you look at the PM, there's three things in there. There's iodine, selenium, and zinc. Now, I can tell you as a physician that there are probably maybe one other product in the United States that has all three of those ingredients in it. And those are the three ingredients that are important for thyroid health. You cannot make thyroxine, which is the active hormone from your thyroid gland, without iodine. So iodine, very important. But here's the important thing, and this is where I think most doctors miss it. And I don't think I have any other healthcare providers on this call, but I'm not sure. I'm not looking at the whole gallery. I'm looking at Nancy. But when the majority of doctors, I'll go that way so I don't get myself in trouble. When the majority of doctors check somebody's thyroid function, they order one lab test. They order a TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone. And they go by that. That doesn't tell you anything. If they're slightly smarter, they order TSH and T4. That doesn't tell you anything because T4 is inactive. So in order to convert T4 to T3, active thyroxine, you need two coenzymes. You need two nutrients, micronutrients. You need selenium and zinc. If you don't have selenium and zinc, you cannot convert T4 to T3. I think the majority of Americans are hypothyroid. We used to see this in practice. We would get a complete thyroid panel, TSH, T4, T3, antibodies, and we would see normal TSH, normal T4, abnormal T3. Now, they don't need thyroid hormone. You don't need to stimulate their thyroid. You need to convert T4 to T3. All they need are two things, zinc and selenium. And so I was so astounded when I looked at the ingredients of this, that there was zinc, selenium, and iodine in our AM/PM. I think it's mind-blowing. For you guys that don't get uber science geeked out like I am right now, it's an amazing product, and we got to thank Nancy for that.
Well, I was just grateful they listened. That was part of the issue because it's one of those things. Sometimes things are harder to bring in, and there's so much that goes into formulation and making things, but the key that makes whatever we do, the thyroid is so important. Between the thyroid, the gut, and the pancreas, the blend of all those things, it's really truly our key to health. And I think for me, when they started talking to me about it, I had to really go in and explain to them the real true purpose of what goes on in the yin and the yang with the zinc and the selenium. And it didn't take a lot once I started talking their language. Once I started talking about glutathione production, they started listening, and selenium is very responsible. And then when I started talking about cytokines and inflammation and being able to keep that down, zinc is so important for that. And you know what? We'll get into this in another minute too, but it also has to do with copper and how we keep copper at bay and what we do to keep these micronutrients in the right balance so that our bodies can have the proper molecular biochemistry.
Yeah, and so we've talked about thyroid and how important I think that is. And I would guess, we have 21 people on the call. I would guess that if you're not treating your thyroid and you're feeling tired in the afternoon and feel run down, I would guess that 3/4 of the people on this call, if you're not treating it, are hypothyroid, because you have to look at T3. And all you need is the AM PM. Well, all you need is really the PM, because it has the 3 ingredients are in the PM, but you should take both. Here's the other problem I see in America. I live in Florida. Nancy lives in Arizona, 2 of the sunniest states in the country. I have never seen a normal vitamin D level. Never. In every patient that has come to my office, I have not seen. I've seen them in the normal range for LabCorp or in the normal range through Quest, but I have never seen a normal, for what I think is normal, vitamin D level. And so, we have a vitamin D product that I think is amazing. And once again, like I said, if you're trying to treat osteoporosis, vitamin D and calcium isn't enough. And the amazing thing is this has the other ingredient in it, which is K2. If you don't have K2, you're not going to treat your osteoporosis. So, Nancy, elaborate on that.
Well, you know what? It's just for proper, and the thing that I did with this, as you can see, like I said to begin with, our body, we're not designed to take a bunch of pills. What we're designed for is to have proper nutrients, right? So when I put this together, it was really important to me. And if you go in and you take a look at the labels, not only do we have the D3 and the K2, but we have 4 or 5 different kinds of calcium, okay? So when we have those different forms of calcium, the D3 has to work it's kind of complicated, but basically D3 is why we use the form of D that we use in here, because regular D is a huge molecule and it just doesn't get things done. Right. It's just so big, it just can't get things, the chemistry right, if you will. And I don't want to go deep into a lot of the science, but the bottom line is the K2 is what drives all the enzymes. It's what brings the D3, the right forms that we have here, to be able to do the work that they need to do. And it's, again, part of absorption. It's part of all the different chemistries that go on in our body. It's also important for our brain to be able to get this nutrients into your brain. There are certain things that the blood-brain barriers close down and won't let go across. And big molecules like huge molecules of calcium don't get across. And we need that, which is a really huge reason why we're seeing so much more dementia, why we're seeing so much more Alzheimer's, because our brain is not getting some of the micronutrients we need. And as much as everybody thinks that the D3 is for bones, and it is, the important part of the MPM and D3 all together are the fact that it's balancing all those micronutrients that our body needs for repair. Okay, as it breaks down, there's balances of things that break things down, and we need things to break down. It sounds weird, but we need things to break down, but then we have the other things that help build it up again. And it's that whole process of how we stay healthy. So,
Yeah, if you look at the numbers like LabCorp, I think LabCorp's high end, they're saying normal, I think is 20 to 40. I like to keep
mhm,
people around 60. I
60.
think that is a closer vitamin D level. And I think and we worry about, all the ladies on the call, we worry about their osteoporosis. We could have a whole discussion on osteoporosis. The best osteoporosis drug in the world is testosterone, but I won't get into
Mhm.
the hormone thing. But that is the best bone building drug. Everyone, if you're over 50, should have your testosterone levels checked. But vitamin D isn't just bone. It's your immune system. It's your brain. It's a mood stabilizer. It's healthy aging. So we really need those good levels of vitamin D. And I'm not sure, I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure what's happened. Obviously, oxidative stress, but and probably sunscreen. And now today, with our young kids, video games and not going outside to play and all of those things. But we're not seeing normal vitamin D levels. We're seeing them in the normal range for LabCorp, but we're not seeing those 50 to 60 range where really that's a healthy individual. So it really does it's really something that I think my goal is after this call that sales of the AM/PM and vitamin D go up because we all start talking about it. Here's another one that I really want to talk about. And we can pick apart A and PM all we want. The other one is the one I always have problems saying, which is molybdenum, which is a micro element. Most people haven't even heard of it. It's
Nope.
in the AM PM. And it's really, really important, especially when we start talking about NRF1, NRF2, because it helps the detoxification product in the body. So give everyone, I've been talking more than you, give everyone a little input on why you added that and where you were going and what you were thinking, because it's not in most vitamins.
No, and the reason is and we use a teeny tiny, we only need a little teeny tiny amount. Okay, that's why when I think others look at things that, oh well, they don't have, why do they even need that? It's so tiny, but that little teeny tiny amount does some incredible things. The most important thing is it breaks down proteins. Okay, now that sounds bad. Everybody's into, oh, we got to have proteins, whatever. The reasons we need to eat proteins and have proteins is so we can break them down to utilize them for all the different things our body needs them for. Okay. And guess what? That's where that comes into play. It has what it does is it stimulates 4 enzymes. And those enzymes are all very much in tune with breaking things down. So if you ever hear about enzymes, they always end in the word ACE, ASE. So it's like sulfite oxidase, xanthine oxidase. I won't get into all the chemistry, but the bottom line is it's the primary function is detoxification, which is what we keep talking about, right? And the other thing that it has to do, huge for uric acid production. And a lot of people don't know or understand that. And that, because they think of uric acid and joint pain or whatever, they don't understand the purpose of balanced uric acid production. Because what uric acid does, it's very essential in eliminating waste. And we want to get rid of as much waste out of our body as possible, right?
And that's where molybdenum comes in, it's all the detox pathways. So it's sulfur detox and it's amino acid metabolism and detox. So these are all activating all those detox pathways. And if you think about our products as activators, molybdenum is an activator, even though it's not one of our key activators that we talk about, NRF2, NRF1, NAD. It is truly an activator, and to have this in our AM/PM, um, our combination, it's important as far as those detox pathways. So absolutely, these are things that I think are selling points for the people that are listening when you go to talk about. And this is more of a science call than a sales call. But if you know some of this science, this is how you can upsell to people and talk about different products and get that working knowledge of why these LifeVantage products are so amazing. The other one that we'll touch on, and I have some last questions I want to talk about. The other one that I think is really, really important, and one of the biggest things right now, I think, in the United States, other than hormones and peptides, that could be a complete, another call. But the other thing is NAD. NAD is huge right now, huge for brain health. I love it because it's great for healing and mobilizing stem cells. But NAD cannot function without what, Nancy? Do you know where I'm going?
Yeah, the zinc and the copper.
Zinc and copper are essential for NAD. And so we have this going on in the United States. We have all of these pop-up IV clinics and supplement clinics, and people are going in and getting IV glutathione, and they're getting injections of NAD and sub-Q NAD and IV NAD, and they're paying hundreds and hundreds of dollars for these injections and IVs. But your body can make its own NAD, hence our NAD activator. But in order for your body to do that, to make the active ingredient in NAD, which are called sirtuins, you need two elements, two minerals. And these
Yep.
two minerals are zinc and copper. And
Yep.
once again, in our AM/PM. So
Yep.
go ahead, Nancy.
They are definitely, they're the cofactors. You know what? And they're what cofactors are is that, they're that helping hand that makes the equation go. Okay. They're going to make the things go in the directions that they need to go. And it's an interesting thing about zinc and copper too, because their ratios, the amounts of one to the other, is really important. And a lot of people don't understand that. So I don't know how much any of you pay attention to much, but I kind of giggled about this. Jeff did mention that we met at the bar on the boat, right? Well, there's this drink that is fairly popular in Kentucky and with my family, and it's served in a copper mug. Okay. I don't know how much of you have recognized, but it wasn't too long ago, the government got involved and they're like, okay, those people are drinking out of copper mugs. They now need to have a lining in them so that they aren't absorbing copper when they're having the drink that's in them. Now, I understand the concept. I guess I'm not drinking out of it all day, every day. So, I kind of was a little upset about it because some of the copper that's in there, most people don't get enough copper. Right. So I was kind of perturbed about the whole thing, and I still do have my old copper cups. But the bottom line is, I just think you don't realize how much chemistry comes into our everyday lives until you have things like that happen, right? But
that's absolutely true.
But the zinc and the copper are really important cofactors in NAD, and NAD is our superpower. It is our superpower. It is what in the cell, back to the cell with the NRF1 and the NRF2. It's the superpower. It makes both of those do their job better. And in so doing, it optimizes the health of the cell. And you know what? I don't know about you, but I want to optimize mine as long as I can, especially up here, right? And that's the key.
And NAD is great for the brain, and it's one of the biggest things for healing, for body healing. One of the things that, I've talked to Lisa Barnes about this, that I think we need to get this out there, but she said until we can get a study, we can't really advertise it or talk about it, but I'm going to talk about it anyways. NAD is one of the strongest mobilizers of stem cells. So what does that mean? What is mobilization of stem cells? Stem cells, for the most part for us, are in our bone marrow. And so, but if we have an injury, the body sends out signals to the bone marrow to mobilize stem cells into the peripheral circulation. And then those stem cells can go to the area for healing, whether it's post-heart attack, post-surgery, post-stroke, you mobilize your stem cells to get that healing done. And that's what NAD does. So I don't think, and this is me, I always like to make these big blanket statements that usually get me in trouble, but I don't think anyone should ever have surgery and not be on NAD. I think it absolutely has to happen. I've been doing that in my practice for probably 15 or 18 years. I always recommended my patients go on NAD, and obviously copper and zinc are part of that. But I think NAD, it's my second favorite other than NRF2. I mean, I think everyone in the world should be on NRF2, and I think NAD is right behind it. It's my second favorite. Even with me losing 130 pounds on my body, those two are still number one and number two. I'm going to switch directions. Switch directions. So we talked about D, we talked about A and PM. The other one is prebiotic. And millions
That's
of
what
Americans take a probiotic every day.
it all starts in the gut, right?
Yeah, we
It
all
all
take the probiotic. Most people don't even know what a prebiotic is. So let's talk about a prebiotic and let's talk about, I think taking a probiotic without a prebiotic is like planting seeds in the ground and never watering them. I think that's the analogy that I like to use. It's like throwing grass seed on your lawn and say in Arizona during the drought. They did have rain today. Nancy and I were talking before the call. They did have rain today, the 1 out of 4 days of the year that Arizona got rain. But it would be like throwing out grass seed and never watering it. That's taking a probiotic without prebiotic. So talk about your thoughts on prebiotics. What it does. Most people on the call don't even probably know what it does.
well, remember how I started the conversation in the beginning about how my gut was broken as a kid? It all comes back to that. So that has been my primary focus in what I do my whole entire life, right? And you know what? The bones and all of that make a difference. But one of the biggest reasons that we always have so many problems is if we are not taking care of our gut's ability to do its work, then we can't take it. It doesn't matter how much you eat or even how much water you take in. Your body will not utilize those things properly. Okay. And so what the prebiotic is doing is it's making sure that the organisms we have, the bacteria that we have in our bodies that break down things so that we can eat properly and then absorb those nutrients into our bodies where we need them, are by feeding them the things that they need. And we have so many things today, you talked about it earlier, our processed foods and all these different things that actively are killing our active probiotics. And so if we don't do something to help take good care of them, they're not going to be balanced. And then the bad bacteria start taking over. And it's why we see so many people with gut problems and so many people that, you know what, just do not have proper gut function. And it all starts with the prebiotic.
No, I absolutely agree. And I was a big supporter of our prebiotic and our probiotic. And then of course now we have the P84, which has come out, which I think is an amazing product. Possibly more than some people need. I mean, I think that it's an amazing product. It's an expensive product. We absolutely know that. And I think that there's really different goals. And what I see and what I've been doing, and I want to see if you agree, Nancy, and obviously you were one of the formulators of the prebiotic. I think that if somebody has really bad gut health, and I don't know if we have any Love Biome people on this call, they may shoot me, but what I think is if you have really bad gut health, you're really having problems with constipation or diarrhea or dyspepsia, acid reflux, whatever, 3 to 4 months of P84, get things settled, and then go back on our probiotic prebiotic combination, much less expensive product, but I still think a great product. And use those two together. And so tell me, how do you see those two products working together?
I 100% absolutely agree with you. Now, what I will say is there are so many people with those extreme gut problems. Okay.
There's no doubt.
So because of that, you know what? I think there is a need. Does every single person need it? Maybe not. I don't know. But the purpose of it really, truly is to help to bring back, because here's a part of it that a lot of people don't know. Yes, it's good at putting back in some really good probiotics in our gut that we may not be getting from our pre and probio. There's some other ones. There's extra ones. It has the means of breaking down 14 or activating 14 key peptides that help break down, and they do everything from regulate to repair to restoring our body, right? Where I get into it and what I tell people, I kind of, it's one of the few products, everybody needs NRF2. Everybody needs NRF1. I don't have issues with that. not everybody needs full dose of P84 all the time. And so what I do is I try to help if they are people that come to me and they have really severe gut problems. One of the things that I really do appreciate about it, I told you, it does help regulate, but one of the biggest things is it does calm down the gut response, and it really has some unique qualities in it to restore the gut barrier. Mm-hmm. That's really important. And I'm not talking just the probiotics. I'm talking the physicalness. People don't think about this, and this is where collagen comes in too. The gut is skin on the inside, all right? So when that's breaking down, I mean, it has the abilities for things to be going in and out of it all the time. It's not like this rubber hose that doesn't let stuff in and out. There's lots of different things that go on with it. And so what I love about our P84 is I do believe that it, does help to re-regulate it so that it starts getting back under control again. The repair part is huge, but I think its biggest issues are the fact that it restores the balance. And so as I have people go forward, I'll tell them, to your point, they may start on it every single day. As time goes on, what they find is their body gets repaired and is doing well. There may be people that only need a third of the packet a day, or maybe take one packet every 2, 3, 4 days. Okay.
Right. Spread it out over 4 months.
Right.
3 months.
And so that's where that product for me, that's how I view that product in terms of there's times, places versus some of the other things that are absolute, you got to have it. Okay.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. You were talking about that barrier, leaky gut syndrome, and I think we've all heard those words. And what I don't think people realize is what leaky gut is we have all the cells that line the gut, and those cells should be right up against each other. I don't know if you can see my fingers, but they should be right up against each other. And what happens is those gaps open up, and when those gaps open up, things sneak in. As a matter of fact, one of the things that sneaks in is the plastic from water bottles, and I'm seeing Nancy drinking out of a non-water bottle, so that's great. But the plastic from water bottles leaks in through that leaky gut, and they've actually found that we ingest into our gut about a credit card size of plastic every week. A whole credit card worth of plastic every week is ingested into our system from water bottles and cutting boards and Tupperware containers and all those things. Not to throw another network marketing company under the bus, but all of that plastic gets into our bodies. And they have proven that if you have leaky gut, actually proven by an orthopedic surgeon, believe it or not, I can't believe this, but proven by an orthopedic surgeon that was taking lymph node biopsies for a study from the groin, finding these plastic particles in the lymph nodes in the groin at the times of surgery. And so it's showing that these plastic particles are absorbing in through our leaky gut into our bloodstream and depositing into the lymph nodes. That's mind-blowing to me. And so, yeah, we need products like P84 to bring down that gut inflammation and restore that so we don't have these issues. It's absolutely important. And I think P84 is one of our best products, but as Nancy said, it probably doesn't need to be taken every day. So I'm going to close. We're at the 50-minute mark. I don't like to go over an hour. I'm going to close with 2 questions. First is what I'm going to call the big picture question. And that's, so after spending years and years and years formulating products, studying health, studying nutrition, what are 3 things that you wish every American understood about their health?
Well, the thing we talked about, the gut, and the importance of us trying our best to do what we can to help it. Cells from the health perspective out are how we can get there, right? Be it the gut, the brain, the rest of our body, our cardiovascular system, all of those things. And you know what? Making sure we're moving. I can't think of anything more important in our lives than getting up and moving. We need to move. That's one of the biggest problems as people age. A lot of my friends are looking at me and they're going, I can't believe you're 72 years old. You're running around, you're doing this, you're doing that, you're with grandkids, you're doing, you name it, you're doing all kinds of things. And the answer is, I don't stop moving. I don't. It's so important. So those would be my top 3 things.
All right, I'm going to throw an extra question. I have a closing question that I never give my guest. I never give the guest a closing question ahead of time. Some of the other questions, I let them prepare and I give them a list of questions that I might ask from. I give them about 20 questions and say, I'm probably going to ask 7 or 8. But I promised that I would ask this question today. So talk about Protandim and the equine industry. I live in Ocala, Florida, where we call ourselves the horse capital of the world. It might be Lexington, but we like to call ourselves, between Ocala, because the World Equestrian Center is here, and because of Keeneland in Lexington, it's one of those two is the horse capital of the world. I had somebody reach out today who's on the call, and she wants you to talk about, and you have background in veterinary science, so let's talk about Protandim and horses.
Well, I think I gave you my background at I wanted to go to medical school, then I wanted to go to veterinary school, end up doing all the compounding. Well, God has a funny way of answering your prayers, and my daughter's a veterinarian. Okay. And that's the good news. The bad news is she decided to go to the University of Kentucky and then to Auburn, where she got her degree. And of course, she met a guy in Louisville. And so guess what? My grandchildren are held hostage in Kentucky. But the good news is I get to be there often. And my daughter always teases me and tells me that I've been the animal whisperer before anybody else, because, animals just come up to me and do things that other animals and places don't. But she had someone that she was dealing with a while back, and there were some issues with their horses. And she said, Mom, I know I never listened to you about any of that stuff. I don't, that's not what I'm trained, whatever. But one of the horses, he really, really is suffering, and it's getting so close to race time. And I know people bang on us about how we don't take care of him. We do. And he's not going to get to race because he's hurting. And she said, do you think it would help? I'm like, heck, it's worth a try. So guess what? We started him on some NRF2. Yeah, guess what? A couple of weeks later, he just won Derby. No big deal. And here's the best part. He was feeling so good. He was feeling so good. And so, you know what? We have a ton of equine people now that are very, very interested. And again, we're talking about NRF2 in mammals. And then one other last thing that I want to bring up. I travel a lot because I can. And I had a dear friend who invited me to go down to an island called Curacao. It was the ABC Islands, Aruba, Bonaire, and Curacao. So I went down there. And when I got down there, they were so sweet. The room they put me in where I was staying overlooked this marina. And I'm like, oh my goodness, they have a marina here? I don't know if I'm really cool with sea animals being stuck in a marina. Okay. Well, they come knocking on my door and say, hey, we need you to come down here. So they take me around to the other side of the marina I hadn't seen. And that's where I met Dolly. Dolly was a dolphin that was struggling. They had her inside there because out in the ocean, her flipper wasn't working right and she was going to die. So they brought her in and they were trying to help her. Well, guess what? She ended up taking, guess what? Some NRF2. Before you know it, 3 days later, Dolly's jumping back up out of the marina. And what I loved about the backside of the marina I hadn't seen is every day they take the dolphins that they have and the marine animals they have, and they have a little boat with a little motor, and the animals follow them out to the ocean, and then they come back in because they can and they want to. And so I have seen some incredible things with my dogs. You know what? We have pet tandem, but more importantly, you know what? I don't even know if Jeff knows this. I have dear friends that are Amish, and believe it or not, one of the biggest reasons that they got involved was because one of the cows was having issues. And guess what? Apparently when NRF2 is operating properly, it really increases milk production.
Yep. No, I actually, we haven't talked about this, but I go to the Amish community. I went last summer, and they invited me back this summer to speak. So if you ever want to do something interesting, I'm going to be there the last week in July. But if you're anywhere near the Midwest and northern Indiana, southern Michigan, um,
Yes.
meet me there because it is an absolute amazing, amazing time. I'm
Do
going
you
to.
know Fannie Mae? Have you met Fannie
I
Mae?
have, yes,
Oh, yes.
absolutely.
Well, she was the one. She came to me. I was in Indiana doing a meeting, and she came up and she goes, "Is this going to help cows milk?" I'm like, "What?" And so, you know what? The next thing you know, but the point is, it's mammals, okay? And I mean, we have all kinds of mammals that have really done well. And you know what? It doesn't matter. Elephants, giraffes, and the thing of it is, it doesn't take a lot. It's not hugely dose dependent. Yeah, they're going to need a lot more uh, than one tablet, probably, but not a whole lot more. With the horses, most of the time, it's only two or three. And you know what? It's just amazing when you see them. It's like you can see a smile on their face. I don't even know how to explain it, but you know, my daughter says, "Well,
If you have not gone on YouTube and watched the YouTube video Zora the horse, just go on YouTube and put in the search thing Zora the horse. It's an amazing video about a horse that was they were ready to put down, and they started on a half a pill, I think, of Protandim.
mhm.
And in 3 days, it completely turned around and was out running in the fields again. So you need to watch that video. For my last question, oh, and by the way, so last Monday and Tuesday in July, Goshen, Indiana. I'm sharing the stage with Joel. Joel and I are both doing overviews 2 nights in a row, Monday and Tuesday night. So I know Lindy Ritsu is coming with me. My wife Jennifer is going as well. But yet, absolutely have to come with us. I think it's going to be absolutely amazing. I think those are the dates, but reach out to me. I'll tell you what dates we're going to be up there.
Perfect."
And then closing question. Um, if you look ahead 5 to 10 years from today, what excites you the most about the future of nutritional science and personalized health and LifeVantage?
For me personally, it's watching people and their understanding of the molecular biochemistry. People are starting to really truly understand that and the effects it has on our genes, and understanding nutrigenomics and how through nutrients and all those things we have the ability to make such an impact on how our genes are expressing the good way versus the bad way. And that part is so exciting to me because there's so many disease states that, you know, I don't want to talk about this disease and take that, this disease and take that. I want to help the body optimize, be activated to its ultimate health, and be able to see the future with a lot less medication.
Yeah, no one, I always like to use the phrase, no one has a big pharma deficiency. There's nobody on this call that has a statin drug deficiency. There's nobody on this call that has a high blood pressure medication deficiency. Nobody has that. And so, but doctors today, and even back, I mean, I trained 30 years ago, even back then, we were told that you have this disease, you give this pill. You have this disease, that's not the answer. That is absolutely not the answer. And so I just want to thank Dr. Nancy for coming on the call tonight and joining us. And most importantly, for everybody that tuned in and were with us tonight, taking time out of your day to be here. I kept it right at 1 hour, but I want everyone to remember a couple things. One is remember that you need to take back control of your own health and your own healthcare destiny. This isn't your doctor's. It isn't your doctor's right to control your medications, control your health. You need to take control of your own. And I want you to join me in 2 weeks. Next week, I do an overview. You're welcome to invite new people onto my overview. And then in 2 weeks, I have another episode of Dr. Jeff and Friends. And we'll continue to bring the latest insights from leaders that shape medicine, not just in LifeVantage, but from all around the world, and shape some of the science. And I'm talking to one of my great friends and one of the greatest minds in LifeVantage, Dr. Brett Brimhall. I know we're going to be talking about Axio. I know we're going to be talking about some of our favorite combinations. It'll be absolutely a great call. And until next time, this is Dr. Jeff. Stay healthy, stay curious, and keep making a difference in our communities. I love you all and have a great night. Bye-bye.